Hey guys, Jason here with RWB NetSec, and it's time for another Boot2Root challenge. So in this video, we're going to be working through the Pentester Labs SQL Injection to Shell challenge. According to their description, the difficulty rating for this challenge is beginner. And with this challenge, you're supposed to learn some SQL injection using union statements, as well as cracking MD5 password hashes and then putting together a PHP web shell. So that's the main goal of this challenge, is to end up with shell access to the box. So I don't think there's an actual file to retrieve like there was with the Nullbot challenge. You can download the ISO from VulnHub's page, and I will put that link in the description below. So get it downloaded when you get a chance, get it set up, and then follow along as we attempt to break into another machine here. And as usual, we're going to be using Kali Linux 2 as the attacking machine. So just make sure you've got both of those set up and on the same network, and you should be ready to go. So let's go ahead and get started with it here. All right, so first things first, I'm just going to go ahead and minimize this window here. And I'm going to go ahead and fire up KeepNote so we can kind of keep track of things as we work through this. So if you haven't watched the other video and aren't familiar with KeepNote, it's just a note-taking program that you can use as you're working through a system. And it allows you to not only type in any notes that you want, but you can also do screenshots with it. So if you just go up to Applications and then down to Reporting Tools in Kali, and then under Reporting Tools, you've got KeepNote here, so just open it up. Yeah, that's fine. I was playing around with it earlier. So the first thing you'll need to do is just go up to File, and then click on New Notebook. And I've already created a folder on my desktop that I want to save this into, so I'm just going to name the notebook SQLi to Shell. Go to New, and you can see it's created our notebook for us, and then we want to create our first page. So if you just right click on your folder here and then click on New Page, and then I'm just going to rename this one to Discovery and Scanning. And once you get that part set up, then we're ready to actually start the challenge here. So the first thing that we need to do is find out what the IP address is for the target. We're going to be using NetDiscover again for this. So let's just open up a terminal window. Let me pull this over here quick. And the command is just going to be netdiscover -r and then our network range. So I'm going to do a /24. I'll hit enter. All right, and I see my box is going to be .187. So let me go ahead and I'm going to clear this out. Well, actually, before I do that, let me just go ahead and do a screenshot of that. Edit, insert screenshot, and then I'm just going to grab this one here. All right. So the next thing that we need to do is run an nmap scan against the target to see which ports may be open on it. So I'm going to clear the screen again, and I'm just going to do a quick version scan against all ports, all TCP ports, and it was 1.187. So we'll let this run here and see what it finds. And one quick side note, as you're working on maybe some of the other challenges that are out there, for this one, since we know what the specific goal is, we're going to be looking at SQL injection, obviously. But when you're working on a system, you're going to also want to do a scan against the UDP ports as well. There may be something running on UDP that could be interesting. you could get some maybe SNMP information or something else. So make sure that you're scanning both TCP and UDP ports when you're looking at other computers. But for this one, we're just going to be looking at the TCP side. So our scan has finished, and we just see that there's 2 ports that are open. We've got 22 and 80. So since we don't have any credentials yet for SSH, we're going to focus on port 80. So that seems to be, that's probably the low-hanging fruit here for this system and the goal of where we want to get to. So let's do a quick screenshot of these just so we can keep track of the ports. So we'll go back to KeepNote, do another edit, insert screenshot. And I'm going to go ahead and capture all of this so we can see which Nmap scan we ran. Just cycle through that. So the first thing we need to do, I'm just going to, let me minimize this terminal window. Go ahead and open up your browser. And we're just going to browse to the target's IP address and see if anything comes up. Alright, so we've got a photo blog website. So we're going to treat this as primarily a web app pen test. So one thing that you need to, I guess, get in the habit of when you're going against a web app is that you want to kind of work your way through the page. Click on all the links that there are just to get a feel for how the page is set up, how everything works. And by going through all this, you kind of get a feel for where injection points could be. So we're just going to start, of course this is obviously the main page that comes up, not really much here. If we click on this test page and see what comes up. Yeah, we've just got a couple of pictures, RuxCon. It's a nice picture, we can use that as our logo. 2010, nothing here. All pictures. Of course, this is what it sounds like. It just shows all the pictures, and then we have admin. We don't have any credentials currently to log in. If I just try something quick here, just to see, it's probably not going to be vulnerable to SQL injection, I would say. Let's try 1 equals 1. Alright, so probably not going to get anywhere with that just yet. So let's go back to the regular site. The next thing that we would want to do is start looking at the source code for each of the pages just to see if there might be any kind of comments or anything that the developer left behind. So I'm just going to go back to the test page. And I'm going to right click on it and do a view page source. So let me pull that over here. So looking through this page, I don't see any comments. And as I look at the links on it, a couple of things that stick out to me. One being this this particular page and parameter that's used. That's always a potential area that you may find SQL injection. So we'll make note of this link, and also this admin uploads area. That may be something that comes into play later on. So tell you what, let me go back to KeepNote quick. I'm going to create a new page here and just call this one http:/80 for the port. I'm going to come back to our source code here. I'm going to do another screenshot and make sure that I get both of those links included, just so we have them as a reference. Come back here, and I'm just going to close out of this. So then if I go back to RuxCon, view its source code, And it looks like pretty much the same thing with that one. 2010. Yeah, nothing new there. All pictures. And notice, and I'm not sure if you guys see this on yours as well, but when you go to the all pictures page, we get this error message that comes up. Not sure if it's a misconfiguration with PHP of this page, but could be handy. I mean, we can tell that the files are living under var www, which tells me that this is a Linux box. So it's little things like that that you need to make sure that you're aware of things as you're going through it. The little details could actually provide you a lot of information going forward. So let's view the source of this page. And I'm not seeing. We have a new file here. This show PHP with ID equals 3. Just need to keep track of that. Alright, so not a lot of stuff in the source code, but we did find a couple of extra links that we need to keep track of, and just remember, because they could come into play later on. So the next thing that I want to do then is go back to this test page, and I just want to do a quick check to see if SQL injection is possible on this page. So I'm just going to enter a single quote at the end of the URL and hit enter. And yeah, you can see we get a SQL error that comes back. So that's a good sign for us. So this is something that we want to keep pursuing to see if we can actually get any info out of the database from here. All right, so from here we're going to start working with manual SQL injection. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video to this one showing how to use SQL map for the same type of injection, but for this video I wanted to stay focused on the manual injection just to give you a little bit more practice with it and see how it works. So if you watched the other video, you'll know that we need to start with the order by statement, because we need to find out how many columns are being used for this page. So I'm going to just do an order by statement in the URL, and I'm going to start with 5 again. Put 2 dashes and a plus sign at the end and hit enter. And you see we get this error message here, unknown column 5. So that tells me that there's fewer than 5. Let me go back here. Fewer than 5 columns on the page. So what we need to do then is go back and just decrease this number until we get a valid page return. We'll hit enter. And we do have a valid page here. So it looks like we have 4 columns that are available to this page. So we know we have 4 columns. So we're going to use this information to form our union statement. So this time we need to negate or void the parameter value. So I'm just going to put a minus sign in front of it like this. And you could also just use the word null here. And I'm going to leave it with the -1. We're going to delete this order by, and we're going to put in union select, and then we're going to use the 4 columns. And when we hit enter, we're going to be able to see which of these columns is actually outputting data to the page. So we'll hit enter, and it looks like column 2 is the only one that's showing up. You've got it there, and then you've also got it showing up here. So that's the one that we're going to use to try to extract data from the database. Everything that we type in after this should show up in this area. So we're going to start just by getting, let's just do the database version first. We'll see which version of MySQL is being used. So we're going to delete that 2 out, and we're going to replace it with @ version. We'll hit enter, and we see here the MySQL version is 5.1.63. So that's good for us. With MySQL, anything that's version 5 or higher makes it easier for us to perform SQL injection attacks. If it was lower than version 5, it would make it a little bit more difficult. Some of the commands that you would use would be different. So it's version 5 plus, so we're good on that point. So now let's look at, while we're doing this, since I've already got it up, let me go back. Let's create a new page within KeepNote just to keep track of this stuff. I'm just going to call this one SQL injection. Come back to our site, and then I'm just going to do a screenshot of this entire page here. Insert screenshot. Make sure that I get the URL so I can see what I typed in. And I'm just going to get that information. So with this image, we've got the command that we had typed in, and then we've got the information here for the database version. So I'm just going to enter down a couple of lines. Now we're going to find out what the database user is. So let's go back and delete this @ version. And now we're just going to type in user with the 2 parentheses here and hit enter. And we can see that this is the user that the database is running as. So let's do another quick screenshot. Get the URL and then that data. Alright, so that looks good. Let's go down a few more lines. And now let's get the actual database name. So we're just going to delete user here and type in database. Leave everything else the same. Hit enter. And now we've got photo blog. So let's do another quick screenshot. Make sure I got everything. Hit down enter. Alright, so we've got the basic information here. So we know the database version, the user that it's running as, and the database name. So now let's move on to focusing on actually extracting the data that we want out of the database. So we're going to start with getting the table names for the database. So let's go back to the URL. We're going to delete this database entry that we'd put in, and we're going to replace it with table _ name. And then we're going to come over here, put a space after the 4, and then type in from information schema.tables. Hit enter. And you can see these are all of the tables that are in that particular database, in the current database that we're using. So we'll scroll down the list to find the one that we want to get the info from. Got one, user privileges, pictures, users. Okay. So this is the one that we want to extract the information from. So let me do another quick screenshot. Alright, and now we want to get the column names for that particular table. So let's go back to our browser, to the URL, and we're going to change where it says table here. Just delete that and replace it with column, and then go out here to the end, change this to columns, plural, and then we're going to add where table name equals users. So we're telling it we want the column names from information schema.columns where the table name was users, which is this one here that we'd found. So if you just hit enter, and now we've got, these are the column names, ID, login, and password. that are within that users table. So let's do another, and before I do that, let me make sure. And just do another quick screenshot. You notice these URLs keep getting longer and longer. All right, now we've got the column names, and the ones that we're going to focus on would be login and password. So if you go back up to the URL, change this to group_concat, and we're going to do login 0x0a and password for the parentheses there. And then we come over here to delete all of this stuff out. And we're just going to do from users. And when we hit enter here, it should extract the information that's in that table. So there we go. We've got one account that it pulled back. We've got its admin, and then this is the MD5 password hash for that account. So then we would want to take this hash and do a lookup on it and see if we can figure out what the actual password is. And before I do that, I'm going to do another screenshot quick. Make sure I've got it. All right, now we need to look up this password hash and see if we can figure out what it is. So in order to do that, we're going to hopefully make it easy. Just copy the hash, and we're going to look it up in Google and see if Google returns anything. Paste the hash in there and do a lookup for it. Yeah, let's see what these sites say. All right, right here on this search result, we've got the password hash here, and it looks like this is the password we want. P4SSW0RD. So I'm just going to come in here and just type that in. Now, normally I would be a little bit more organized with my notes, but I'm just doing it like this for the video. And you guys can certainly set these up the way that you want to. Everybody will have their own style of note taking, so no big deal. So now let's go back to the page. Let's go to the admin login here and see if that account actually lets us log in. So the username was admin, and it was capital P 4SSW0RD. And there we go. We are logged in to the server. All right, so we're logged in now to the administration page, and if you remember from before, the goal of this challenge is to get shell access to the target machine. So now we need to see if there's a way that we can leverage anything within this admin console that will allow us to get a shell on the box. So we're just going to look around and see what's here. We've got this section here, which looks like it's just the pictures. And then we've got the option that we can delete them here or add a new one. It doesn't look like there's really much here. Manage pictures, that's this same page. Of course, new picture, it looks like it's the same thing as what this link is. And of course we could log out. So my guess is there may be a file upload issue that will allow us to upload a PHP shell. So let's look at that and see. If you just click on add new picture, all right, and it gives us the option. Looks like we can put a title in, whatever we wanted to call the picture here. So I'm just going to call it pawn. Of course, we can browse and select our file, and I guess we can select which page we want it to show up on. So as far as the PHP shells go, I've already got some that I had created just to kind of test and play around with. But the basics of the code, you guys can hopefully see that. It's just a PHP one-liner. And what this will do is, if we can get it uploaded, it will allow us to use the URL to type in system commands that should then output the results of that command into the browser window. So we're going to try this one first. I'll just call it save.php. We'll see if it'll will allow us to actually upload a PHP file to the server. So I'm going to browse, go in there and save PHP. Open and click on add. Alright, looks like it was a no-go. We get this message back, says no PHP. So it looks like there's some kind of filtering going on the back end that does not allow you just to upload a PHP file. The thing with this is, depending on how the developer set the page up and set up this upload function, there may be ways to bypass this filtering. One of the ways that we can try is to change the extension of the file, change the case of it, because it could be that the filter is just looking for a lowercase PHP just like this. So if we changed it to something like P or capital P with a lowercase h and another uppercase P, you can try that to see if that will bypass the filter. Another thing that you can try is to change the extension to like PHP 3, which is still going to be executable. So let's try just changing the case of the extension first to see if that works. I guess I need to go back to the upload page here. So I'm going to type in pawn and browse, and you can see I've already got a file created with that extension just so we could try that one out. So I'm going to select that one. We'll just leave it on the test page and then click on add. Alright, it looks like that one actually did work. As you can see here, we have our quote-unquote picture that we uploaded. And if I just click on it there, it's not going to do anything. We actually have to be able to get to that file. So if you remember from earlier when we were doing the enumeration, and if we go back to KeepNote, these links that we found in the source code of this one was in the test page, and we have this link here, this admin uploads, and it looks like that's where all of the pictures are saved to. So if we go to that one, that should be where our PHP file was uploaded to. So I'm going to just change this to admin uploads, and then we're going to type in the name of our file. Make sure you type the extension in correctly, and then in order to run the commands on it, you put a question mark cmd equals, and let's see, I'm just going to do a uname tac a and see what happens. I'll hit enter, and bam, look, it looks like now we have command execution that we can do on the server. What would happen if I did, I'm not sure which command is pwd. So I'm currently on the server under var www admin uploads. What if I tried to cat out the etc password file? Oh, look at that. So we do have command execution on the server. Of course, I'm guessing since the user was not listed as root, we probably don't have privileges to be able to view like something like the shadow file. So if I tried to do shadow, it probably won't work. Nope, we don't get anything back there. But we do have command execution. But the thing with this is, trying to do commands like this is quite a bit tedious. And if you were trying to enumerate the box just using this method, it would take you forever to try to find the information that you needed. So we actually need to find a way to get a more interactive shell on this box. So what I'm hoping is the target box has got Netcat installed. So we're going to try to use that to set up a bind shell that we can connect to from our Kali machine. So in order to set that up, we're going to change this. We're going to run Netcat. We're going to do a TAC LVNP, and I'm just going to do port 4445. And then we're going to do a TAC E bin bash. So what should happen here when I hit enter, if this works, it should open up a listener on the target on port 4445. And then we should be able to use Netcat from our Kali machine to connect to that port and hopefully get shell access. So if we go ahead and hit enter. And one way that you can tell that it's working is this loading image, this little circle, should keep spinning. And that's a good indication that you'll be able to get to it. So I'm going to open a new terminal window. And I'm going to connect to the target with Netcat. 168.1.187, and it was port 4445. I'll hit enter. Alright, it looks like we are connected. So if I do an ID, you can see we're running as www data, uname TAC A, host name. So we have shell access to the box, which was the goal of the challenge. So at this point we can stop. If you wanted to, and what would be the norm in a case like this, you would want to keep enumerating the machine and see if you can find a way to actually elevate your privileges to root. With this box, there was not a flag that we needed to get to like was in the null byte challenge. All we needed to do here was get root or get shell access. So at this point, we've actually got to the challenge, and we could go into the www directory, and now we've got access to all of the files for the web server, and we could continue. We could do source code review from here if we wanted to, or just look around the box for other things that may be interesting to us. So I think that's going to do it for this video. So through the challenge, we were able to use a SQL injection vulnerability, use that to upload a basic PHP shell, and then from there we were able to get our interactive shell using Netcat. So I hope you guys did enjoy this one. I'm going to put a link to in the description below to a page that shows additional methods that you guys can use to attempt bypass of some of these upload filters that they try to put in place. So luckily for us, the first one that we tried worked, and we didn't have to go through a lot of them. This same thought process as far as bypassing the filters, you can also use those kinds of techniques to bypass something like maybe a web app firewall or an IDS, anything that uses blacklisting technology. If you look hard enough, you're probably always going to find a way to bypass what they've got set up. And that's the thing. The good guys have to think of every single way that somebody would try to break in, and the bad guys only have to find the one way to get in. And the big difference between the two is the bad guys always have time on their side, so they could sit and spend months on something trying to bypass it. Whereas, doing a pen test for a company, you're probably limited to only maybe a week or two to try to get into the system. So it is kind of a disadvantage, but that's the nature of the game. So again, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Hit the thumbs up button if you want to see more videos like this. And also, a kind of a side note, I'm going to do a quick follow-up video to this one. And I'm going to show you how to use SQL Map to perform the SQL injection piece of it. I'm not going to be going through the entire challenge again. I'm just going to do the SQL injection part and show you how much faster and easier using SQL Map is. But I wanted to do the manual injection first, just so it gives you more practice with it. You get hands-on with it, and you can understand how to do a manual SQL injection attack. So if you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them below. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for all the support. Talk to you later. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If it's your first time here, I would love if you subscribe to the channel and share it out with all of your friends. So my hope is to build a community where we can help each other learn and grow in security, especially if you're just getting into it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And again, thanks for watching. I hope you all have an awesome day. See you guys.